On today's episode, we talk Spartan Jacksonville with your reigning 2019 Spartan Race World Champion, Nicole Mericle. Welcome to the OCR Report podcast, brought to you by the OCRReport.com. We are the only podcast to focus exclusively on the elite sport of obstacle course racing, from Spartan to Tough Mudder to the OCR World Championships, and wherever the elites are racing, we are there. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the OCR Report. Welcome back to the OCR Report podcast. How are you? My name is Will Hicks. Thank you for listening. You are too kind. You can email me at willhicks@gmail.com. You can follow the show on Instagram at the OCR Report. And you can listen to our other OCR Report podcasts, Obstacle Ring Adventures, OCR Talk, and Overcome and Run, as well as World's Toughest Podcast, where we just talked with Kyle McLaughlin, the president of Tough Mudder, past president. Then he was a regular guy for a while when Tough Mudder was bankrupt, and now he is back with Tough Mudder, which has been acquired by Spartan. Big news. This is I'm not exaggerating, the biggest thing that happened to OCR since OCR started. So anyway, check that out, World's Toughest Podcast. We just talked with Kyle in the new episode. So we're still talking Spartan Jacksonville, the first big race of the season and the first big one until Seattle next month. So, and there's a lot going on right now. There's Spartan Jacksonville, we're still talking about. There is Tough Mudder and Spartan. And they have also Spartan's just announced the venue and dates for the Spartan Ultra Championship. Spoiler, it's Killington. Let's talk some news. Just told you to listen to the new episode of World's Toughest Podcast. We talked to Kyle McLaughlin. We get caught up on basically everything. Now that Spartan and Tough Mudder are under the same roof, I asked Kyle if there was any thought or if they've had any conversations about having obstacles from the different race brands cross over. Have you guys talked about doing any like crossover obstacles? Like we'll take their spear if they take our electroshock?
Not yet, but it's possible.
It's a great talk with Kyle. We talk prize money. We talk changes, if any. We talk how we got here. Anyway, go check it out. World's Toughest Podcast. The first race or the first event of the 2020 Tough Mudder season is May 30th and 31st in Virginia. World's Toughest Mudder is November 7th and 8th in Dallas, Texas. Last weekend, Spartan held the first race in the 2020 US National Series. Ryan Atkins won for the men. Lindsay Webster won for the women. We talked with the top men in the last episode of the OCR Report podcast. Atkins in first, VJ in second, Ryan Kempson in third, Ryan Woods in fourth. Mark Batras was in fifth, and we did not talk with him, but I want to in a future episode. Mark and his wife, Natalie Miano, made some Ryan Woods t-shirts that I kind of love. So I'm going to ask Ryan. I forgot to ask Natalie about that. I'm going to ask Mark about that. So last episode, we talked with those men, the top four men. For the women, we're going to do something different. Instead of putting all of them together in one episode, we're going to do 4 individual episodes. I mentioned last episode that I don't like long episodes of podcasts. When I open my podcast app and I see an hour long or an hour and a half long episode, even if it's a show I like, I think, man, I don't need homework. So I said that last week, and then I dropped a 106-minute episode on your heads. So, yeah. There's a quote attributed to Mark Twain that says, "I didn't have time to write you a short letter, so I wrote you a long one." Tight episodes are hard to do. It's easy easy to just turn on the microphone and force people to listen to whatever you think up offhandedly or at the time. You think I'm joking. I write this all out ahead of time. That's called show prep. Go to our Instagram. Go to Will Hicks. Go to the OCR Report Instagram. Go to Will Hicks Instagram, and I'll show you my notes. So for the women, Lindsay Webster won, Nicole Mericle in second, Natalie Miano in third, Leanne Wasey in fourth, and Lily Elkin in fifth. That is the aspiring Rookie of the Year, Lily Elkin. We'll hear from her in a few episodes. I did not do a full post-race interview with Lindsay Webster this time. She asked if she could take a rain check. But our own Carlo Piscatello did catch up with her at the finish line in Jacksonville.
First place finisher, Lindsay Webster. Lindsay, really quick, just take us quick through your race. What happened? How'd it go?
Yeah, felt really good off the start. I think my heart rate was quite low for a change, whereas normally it's really high. So that was again indicated that I was feeling good today. And then I took the lead at the Z wall, which was surprising. Talked to Nicole after, and she said she almost slipped twice. She got a really bad wall, and I picked a good one. So took the lead there, and then just maintained it the whole way. Never let up. I raced hard the whole way. So, yeah.
Perfect. All right. Thanks.
Well done, Carlo Piscatello. Carlo does all of our live coverage on the OCR Report Instagram. That was Lindsay Webster. Lindsay finished first in Jacksonville. Finishing second in Jacksonville was Nicole Mericle, who we're talking to in a few minutes. Nicole Mericle is the 2019 Spartan Race World Champion. Lindsay is the 2018 and 2017 Spartan Race World Champion. So there is a great Magic Johnson, Larry Bird kind of vibe going between Lindsay and Nicole right now. Or, I don't know who else. I'm sure there's some more modern. Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. I don't know. Anyway, congratulations to Lindsay Webster on her win. Before we talk with your reigning champion, Nicole Mericle, one last piece of news. Spartan has announced the venue for the 2020 Ultra World Championship. The Ultra World Championship is the 24-hour race that has been held in Sweden and Norway the past 3 years. The 2020 Ultra Championship will be held on September 18th in Killington, Vermont. This is the first time the Ultra Championship in its 24-hour form will be held in the U.S. Killington, Vermont is an iconic Spartan venue, and the reaction from the community has been generally positive. One thing to note, and one thing that some people are making some noise about, is the date. September 18th is a Friday, which is unusual by itself, right? Usually the races are on Saturday. Sometimes the big races are on a Sunday, like Jacksonville was. But September 18th is only 9 days before the Spartan North American Championships in Tahoe on September 27th. So if you want to run the North American Championship race on September 27th, you should probably skip the Ultra Championship on September 18th, unless your name starts with Ryan and rhymes with Atkins. That doesn't even make sense. They've been talking, or there's talk of deconflicting the Spartan and Tough Mudder schedules so that all the athletes can do all of the big races. But I think the place to start the deconflicting scheduling is right inside Spartan. 9 days is not enough time to recover from a 24-hour race. It's not even close. Before we talk with Nicole, let's read some iTunes reviews.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars. 5 stars.
Love that laugh. Thank you, Rhea. Today, instead of iTunes reviews or Apple Podcast reviews, we are reading listener email. Email. I need a sound clip for listener email. If someone wants to make one, I'd listen to it. You can email me at willhicks@gmail.com. I would love to get listener feedback from you or even your thoughts on the interviews and episodes. willhicks@gmail.com. First email says, Dear Will, I enjoyed the new episode. How cool is it that you and I are on the same schedule? Sincerely, Leap Year. Okay, first of all, Leap Year doesn't email anybody. Leap Year is a day. Leap Year doesn't have an email address, so I really doubt Leap Year is emailing me. Second of all, so there was a little break between the last episode and the episode before that, but it was not a 4-year break, Leap Year. So you're hilarious, but the whole basis for your joke is invalid. How cool is it that you and I are on the same schedule? We're not. Leap Year. Thank you. willhicks@gmail.com. Next email. Dear Will, looking forward to the new batch of episodes. Sincerely, British Seasons of Television. These aren't real emails. British Television doesn't email anybody. And British Television is in like 6 episodes at a time or 3 episodes at a time. And then they'll go like, I get, they go 2 years between seasons. I get the joke. That's hilarious. Thank you. Thank you for your email, British Seasons of Television. Next email. Dear Will, love the show. Finally, Dear Will, love the show. Very excited to have new episodes out with you at the same time. Sincerely, the Olympics. We just talked about this with Leap Year. There's no 4-year break between episodes, okay? That's not funny. And the Olympics doesn't email me sincerely the Olympics. It'd be like sincerely the IOC. So thanks a lot for your email, the Olympics. That's all right. We're going to go back to no more last email. Dear Will, love the podcast. Can't wait to hear the next one when I get to town. Sincerely, Halley's Comet. Halley's Comet comes like every 75 years. So last time it was here was like 1986 or 1985, mid-80s, early mid-80s. So hilarious. Thank you for your emails. Thank you for your email, Halley's Comet. Thank you, Haley, for emailing me. That's great. You can email me at willhicks@gmail.com. I'm like 90% sure those aren't real emails. If you'd like to be a part of the show, like Leap Year, British Television, the Olympics, and Halley's Comet, allegedly, you can email me at willhicks@gmail.com, or even better, leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Search for the OCR Report, click our logo, scroll down and click write a review, and I will read it on a future episode, but only if it's real, not Halley's Comet. Leap Year. Sunday, March 8th is my birthday, so in lieu of gifts, if you would like to leave a review for the OCR Report on Apple Podcasts, I would appreciate it. Let's talk Jacksonville. It's time to talk with your reigning Spartan Race World Champion, Nicole Mericle. Let's go to the phones. Nicole Mericle, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me again.
Nicole, you finished second place at the first race in the 2020 Spartan US National Series. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Overall,
Always nice to be on the podium.
Yeah, you know what? You're on the podium a lot. Does that ever get old?
I guess I don't know. My perspective of it and like my goals have just changed a little bit year to year. And I would say like this year, especially after having a really good year last year, and not really missing a podium, I think it would probably be, I don't want to say disappointing, but like it'd probably be like a little, it would shake me up a little bit to not get on the podium.
Sure.
Especially this one, like, there's a few people that were absent, a few of the big hitters. So it wasn't like I guess, let's see, like in 2016, 2017, when I was a little bit newer to the sport, just getting on the podium was like the goal. And it was like a really great feat in itself. And I think, so a little bit of that excitement is not as much there.
Sure.
But again, it's always, I don't know. I always say like there's so many things that can happen in off-course racing, and so many things that can go wrong, and so it's there's never like any gimme races, and so I think that I kind of like keep that in mind too.
You say your goals and perspectives have changed a little bit. Are you shooting for bigger goals in OCR? Are you thinking like non-obstacle course racing stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have some goals outside of the obstacle racing world this year that have kind of been in the back of my mind for a while. And mainly just because of conflicting race schedules, I wasn't able to really like pursue my trail running dreams and goals a little bit. So like this year, for the first time in several years, the mountain running championship race for the U.S. is not in conflict with any major OCR race.
Sure.
And so that's actually one of my big goals, is to race as well as I can there. It is a qualifying race to make the U.S. team, and that would be phenomenal, especially given the level of competition that is now there. So don't really have any like, I don't know, like expectations going into it.
Sure.
But I want to kind of make that one of my A races and train really well and try to like peak for it.
It's real common in obstacle course racing that once people kind of do it for a couple of years, they kind of look for another big challenge. And a lot of people go to ultra running from OCR. But it's interesting that you kind of, that's kind of an itch that you've got also. Like, what's the next thing? Maybe not instead of, but in addition to.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, really, I think it's kind of, it's something that I really had the goal of doing the mountain championships even before I knew what obstacle course racing was. And it was just kind of in the process of training for trail running that I found obstacle course racing. And in 2016, realized that was actually way more conducive to where my body was at the time. And so I diverted like fully 100% into obstacle racing. But initially when I went through like a 3-year injury period, and then I started running again and kind of had a moment where I was like, oh, I think I can like maybe dip my feet back in to the competitive running world a little bit. And again, like that was kind of going to be in the trail running world. And I had a few races, but really like switch gears into obstacle racing pretty soon after starting running again.
It's got to be a little scary too, though, because I mean, you're undisputably one of the top 2 women in OCR, right? That, like, no one will argue that, 1 or 2, right? But going into trail running, it's a whole. I mean, you might be top there too, but you know, maybe you don't know. Like, you haven't run against a lot of these girls before, I'm sure.
Yeah, you know, and especially if you look at just like even like the last 4 or 5 years in the trail running world, and especially in like the shorter course trail running world, it's become so much more competitive. You can see that in how many more like sponsors are kind of like have eyes and like a stronghold in that sport. Like when I was working for Hoka back in that's was like 2013, 2014, 2015 maybe. Even then, like ultra running wasn't nearly as big as it is now. Like the participation in the amount of like sponsors that were there and interested in that. And like, I think as that has blown up more, so has the shorter course distances too.
Sure. Which
definitely don't get as much attention still, but it's starting to become a little bit bigger. And then we also have like sky running, which is a whole nother kind of creature when it comes to trail running.
Is that something else you're looking at?
Yeah, definitely. Again, it's really hard to fit a lot of different things in with such a packed season as it is with just obstacle course racing.
Sure.
So I do have a lot of sky races that I have in mind, but it's kind of like based on how I'm going to feel when the season like really starts picking up. And a lot of them are overseas, and that adds the additional element of the stress and the logistics of international travel.
Sure.
So it's something that I really enjoy. I love traveling. I love traveling for races and new places, but it is a stress, no matter even if like, you know, I don't know, you're like the most nomadic person out there. Yeah, I think like, living in a van, you know, traveling, living on the road, it's all a little bit stressful. So we'll have to see like where my body is and where like my mind is, I guess, at that point.
Are you still living that van life? #van life?
So I'm currently in the van, but no, I'm not actually living in it right now. So Aaron and I, we got back from Europe last fall and moved up to like, just like, it's technically Boulder still, but it's like a couple thousand feet up from like Boulder main town. So we're at like 7,000 feet up at a friend's house there. Happens to be my friend Andy Wacker, who's like one of the most competitive trail runners actually in America. So it's a good house to be in. It's a pretty like driven, running oriented house,
Sure.
Which is great. And we've really enjoyed being up there. Benji just gets to roam around and find skunks to his heart's content.
I have a magnet on my fridge that says, "What would you do if you knew you could not fail?" And it can be scary doing something new like that. I think it's awesome, Nicole, that you're, you know, chasing other dreams and things that are scary and that are hard, and that there's other people there that are already really, really good at. But
yeah, totally.
Awesome. Good for you.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. I think it'll go along well with my progression kind of back into a decent amount of miles running per week. Like the last years, I've been running 5 days a week, which is relatively low, a low volume of training for a runner. But because I've had that consistency for 2 years, kind of ready for a little bit more volume and more quality running as well. So I think that's like it's a good time to have that like running specific goals again.
Well, hey, let's take a couple minutes to talk about Jacksonville. You and Lindsay were the favorites 1-2 or 2-1 going in, depending on who you asked. Mm-hmm. What were your thoughts going into this race? First big race of the season.
Yeah, it's kind of hard because last year in Jacksonville, that was probably my best race of the entire year, actually, just because the obstacles were a little slippery, and so a lot of people had higher failures than normal. And I ran a clean race, and I was relatively fit running wise. And it was just like kind of like the perfect combination of, it was an early season race that I was maybe a little too fit for. And I also didn't fail anything. So, so I had a pretty large margin of victory there. It was an exciting course for me. It was flat, but also not incredibly fast because it was really swampy. Still like a lot of good memories from that race. And, I like, when I think about it, like it brings me like a lot of confidence, I would say. So it was, so with that said, it was also kind of hard to go into it this year. Cause I didn't have that same build up and training that I did last year. January 1st, I got sick with some kind of virus. And then once I was kind of over that, I, got bronchitis, and then, I believe I had a sinus infection after that. So, like even now I'm still coughing a little bit, which is kind of ridiculous, but, I know that, there's obviously a lot of sickness going around right now. So, it could be worse, but yeah, just like kind of like the sickness beforehand really like messed up my training. I have asthma too. And I typically don't have problems with my asthma living in Colorado, but I think the bronchitis kind of made things flare up a little bit. So definitely wasn't feeling 100% health wise. And then I had this, even like when I started to get healthy enough to really like start doing workouts again, I had a really dumb accident on a plyometric workout that I wasn't supposed to be doing. And so, I had this, was trying to do my friend Nell's lifting workout, and we had this series of plyometric boxes to jump over, and I like completely wiped out, like super embarrassing. And I banged my quad and my knee up quite a bit, and enough that I had to take 6 days off of running. And so that was kind of like, right when I thought I was like going to be like back to running again,
Sure.
Then I had that happen. Which I'm kind of used to having like a string of injuries in college and since then, and learning how to cross train through injury and how to work around things. Which sometimes honestly just means that you have to give your body rest, which is what I did when I was sick. I really wasn't cross training much. I wasn't running very much. I didn't climb very much at all the last 2 months either, just because it seemed like that my normal volume of training was too much stress given how sick I was. So, so I really, not to be a downer, but I didn't go into it like guns blazing and feeling super confident.
Sure.
And just kind of thought like I would maybe try like a different race strategy and not go out as hard and, kind of see how the race unfolded. And I honestly didn't expect to necessarily steer. I think I might have been a little overconfident in that regard. So I thought that, at that point in the race, I was still very much in it, and I was ready to pass this steer and then like really put like a big effort in the last mile and a half. But I missed my steer and Lindsay made hers. And thankfully, we didn't have to do 30 burpees.
How about
Instead,
that?
What
did you think of that,
yeah.
that change?
Oh my gosh, so much better. Like the penalty run loop was, I like counted part of it. And so I think it was like 40 seconds to 50, maybe even 60 seconds. I don't know. I think it's like it's a fair amount of time in terms of a penalty for a race that's about 30 minutes long. But
Sure.
It's a little bit easier just like mentally and physically to go through. And I came out of it and I was still in second place. And so I think that's kind of like the big thing that, like if like, say like Becca had been there and she had been right on my tail, like, then it would definitely have changed things. But I think like in this situation, I was somewhat still in the race, whereas like, I don't know if it was 30 burpees, it could have been like me, Leanne, and Natalie, like all fighting for
Sure.
that second and third spot, So, yeah. So, but I guess after I missed my spear, knowing that I had that like 40 seconds, and I started with like a 10-second gap between Lindsay and me. I was like, okay, got like a mile and a half left, and now Lindsay has like a minute or more lead. That's a little bit aggressive to overcome. So I mean, you never want to say like you give up, but I would say that I had full faith in Lindsay's ability to finish all the obstacles left.
Sure.
And where my fitness is and kind of like where my health has been, I just didn't really think that I had it in me to overcome that minute gap. And kind of like made like a calculated decision to more or less like run for second, and just like finish out the race.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's about a 90-second gap. At the end, there was 90 seconds between you and Lindsay,
Yeah.
and then also 90 seconds about between you and third place. So that was it looked, just looking at the number, it looks like that spear was kind of where the race was decided.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I was like in no man's land. It's like kind of hard to like push fully when there's like no one ahead or behind you.
What's that like? You're out there, you got to keep working because you don't want to lose your second place, but you probably can't catch first. What's going through your head, or what's the mental battle like?
Well, so it's really different. Like honestly, if this had been a race where I came in super fit and I was confident in my fitness, or if it had been the World Championships or a race, it's like kind of like a bigger race, which this one is a big race. It's, it's one of 5 races that will decide the series champion. But yeah, so in a way it's not as big because it's not like a US championship,
Sure.
a world championship race. So normally my mindset would be, again, like anything can happen. It's an obstacle race. Some people like whiff the bell, even though they get through the obstacle, and then they have to do burpees or like I've been in a situation where I'm leading by a couple minutes and then I just get to a really taxing obstacle that, something like maybe I wouldn't normally fail and I fail it. So, like I've been in that place and I've seen other people falter at the end of races. So typically I would say that, I try to remain like super positive, like anything can happen kind of attitude and like fight like tooth and nail to the end. And really that's like, and I do have some regret, I would say, in that, you always feel better about yourself if you give like 100% in a race, like no matter where you place, like if you feel like you are totally spent crossing that line. And so, and that's part of the reason why, like, I typically go out pretty hard in a race. It's not always maybe the best strategy, but I know that like I can handle a certain fast pace in the gun. And that's like typically the way that I'm going to bring out my best performance. And so that's how I race. But again, this was just kind of a weird race for me where I was coming in physically and like mentally not ready for it.
Sure.
So, yeah, so my mentality was different, and it was more like, enjoy this, finish the race, but like, I'm not going to cut myself to get to that line. And I really like, I've been dealing also with, I'm not like dealing with this anymore really. But I did have a hamstring injury that lingered for 3 months last fall. And I spent like a good chunk of time rehabbing it the last 2 months, and I'm still doing exercises for it. And I still like, I do it before runs. And, while I haven't had any pain or problems with it lately, I'm still very much rehabbing it. And so there's like even things like that kind of in the back of my mind, like, you go all out in the early season race and you don't know like what could happen to your body if you're like in a fatigue state, trying like at your maximum, doing things like a Hercules at the end, So that's kind of what happened.
Injuries can mess with your head. I hurt my knee a couple years ago, and I was doing physical therapy, and physically everything was fine, right? But mentally, I had to. They made me stand on this 3-inch foam like square. I was 3 inches off the ground, and they said, "Okay, now jump on the ground." And I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" Like it took a lot mentally for me to say. Physically, there was nothing wrong with my knee, right? But they're like, "Okay, jump," and my brain was like, "You are not jumping. You are not doing that. That's crazy."
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, the body and the mind are really great at protecting ourselves from like repetitive injury or further injury for sure, which sometimes it's not warranted. But.
So the next race is in Seattle. Are you going to be in Seattle and at the rest of the races in the series?
Yep. I'll be at the rest of them. I'll probably do either the San Antonio race or potentially the Las Vegas race, I think it is. Just kind of as like a little tune-up. But then the rest of the series is kind of the goal. And I might even throw in a 50K trail race just to see kind of like what that distance feels like.
Sure.
It's long for me for sure. But it seems like it'd be a fun experience, honestly.
Nicole, I've kind of been hoping to see you at World's Toughest Mudder one of these years. I don't know if that's possible or not. I think a 24-hour race is like definitely reaching for me at this point. It's not really something that excites me. Like when I go and I crew and cheer at the races, I'm like, oh, this looks like so much fun. But I still think I kind of enjoy that spectator side of it for now. But we'll see. Maybe the 50K will light a fire under me for it. Who knows? Something you've done the last couple of years is the Trifecta Championship weekend in Greece. Are you going to do that this year?
Yep. That's on the schedule. And then, I think like there's a break between that and Abu Dhabi.
Tell me about Abu Dhabi. What do you think about that?
I think it'll be interesting. I think it's fun that the race has traditionally been in these super mountainous places, and it's going to be a totally different course. It's going to be totally different from, I think, anything I've ever run on, and most people have run on before. So, yeah. And obviously, very different culture, like on the other side of the world. So, yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I think it'll be fun. And I know they'll do like a really amazing job of creating like a really big event and fanfare around the race.
You know, with it being the first year over there, I say the first, I don't know if it's the only or first, whatever, but we don't know, like, how do you train? Do you go run on the beach? Is it going to be like hard rock, or is it like literally sand? I'm picturing sand dunes, right? I don't know if that's reasonable or not. I have no idea.
So from what I've heard, and if you like look at where the race location is on a map, it's completely on sand dunes. And it's supposed to be a third flat, a third uphill, and a third downhill. And really it'll be basically a third of it will be rolling, and 2/3 of it will be like rolling sand dunes, and then a third of it will be relatively flat. And as far as like the sand running goes, I keep hearing people say that it's not a similar sand to sand on a beach, or I don't know. Yeah, like it's not as, I don't know if it's not as fine or it's just like stickier or something, but the people that have been out there keep on telling me that it's actually easier to run on than you would think, and that you don't sink down as much. But there's also potentially, there's potential for them to like put some sort of surface over it, which would make it even easier to run on.
Like a track, like a running track kind of thing?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe like lay down some gravel or maybe some sort of mat. I'm not exactly sure. And this is probably not decided yet either.
They're probably it's in December, and we're talking in mid-February, so they got plenty of time to figure it out.
Yeah. But as far as training for it, I think that I have a pretty good training location in mind here in Colorado. There's this area called the Great Sand Dunes National Park, which is, I think, like 5 hours south of Boulder. And there are these huge sand dunes that are right next to the mountains. And it's a super incredible place just to like be at and see the dunes next to the backdrop of the mountains.
Right. And
so I think it'd be like a really fun place to visit, period. And so even if it's not really going to be that great translating to the dunes in Abu Dhabi, I think I'll probably go out there and kind of like test out some shoes, like test out some gear and see how sand running feels.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
That's my plan.
Sand dunes in Colorado. Come on.
Yeah. Altitude, sand dunes. I think it'll be perfect training.
Nicole, tell me about your sponsors or anything else you'd like to plug.
Sweet. Yeah. So this year I'm working with Honey Stinger, which is a really great company based in Colorado. They're in Steamboat, so local, and they've got these delicious gluten-free waffles that I think are my favorite. And I've been using just kind of like the standard gold Honey Stinger gels for a number of years now. They have some other flavors. I think I tried mango the other week, so I'm excited. I kind of like to stick to like the basics during races, so I'm not sure. So that's Honey Stinger. He's also a big partner of Spartan this year, so that's a nice connection. And they're going to be like on course, which is convenient for me and everyone else. And then I'm working with Darn Tap again, which they've got actually a trail running sock line coming out, which will kind of work in conjunction with the Spartan Trail races as well. And then working with Alt Red, which is a beet supplement. It's like a small pill that you take about an hour before you run, and it improves performance and recovery. Super easy on your stomach, so it's really nice and easy to take, and it's also tested for banned substances. So that's one thing that I'm kind of big on is being like really confident in the products that I take, that I won't be tested positive
Sure.
for anything. Yeah. So
Nicole, how can people follow you on social media?
they can follow me on Instagram, and my handle is Nicole DM. And I'm also on Facebook, but definitely a little more active on Instagram. Yeah. And Strava, I guess, too.
Nicole, any last thoughts on Spartan Jacksonville or anything else?
I'm just really excited to see the women's side of the field develop. I know there's kind of like some exciting stories with Natalie placing third, which is first US National Series podium to make. And then Lily, I'm going to butcher her last name, so I maybe won't even say it. It's like Elkin, I think.
Lily Elkin?
Yep, Lily Elkin. So she was fifth, and she's a very young Spartan runner, so that's really exciting to see her so far up there. And honestly, we're missing some people, but there's a lot of new faces there. So yeah, I think it's all positive, and I'm especially excited about seeing the growth in the women's field.
Nicole Mericle, thanks much.
Thank you.
Special thanks to Nicole Mericle for appearing in this episode. Well done, Nicole. Come back anytime. Nicole with a Lifetime's pass. So I'm going to make a list. How many Lifetime passes have I given out? Look at that. Tight 41 minutes. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. I will talk with you soon. Go spend time with someone you love.